spectrum, we can see here we have the harmonics and also the phase of these harmonics. If I just turn this into a very simple top peak of a sine, and the spectrum, if I now alter these arbitrarily, flick back to waveform, we can see how it has affected the waveform. Quite bell-like at that point. I can alter this a bit more. We can see the waveform changes. Sounds a bit different. If I flatten it across, the waveform changes again. And as we can see, jumping back and forth, you saw how I leveled this off. It alters the waveform accordingly. So you can just go through chopping and changing your phase or redrawing the lines, and they'll each alter accordingly. Generally, you'll find that the morph is unavailable. This is because you need to choose a morph wave, choose a source, for example here Miss Wharfie, click on New, and we can see morph is now available. We can see 3 waveforms. If I click on just waveform, I'm going to change this into a straightforward up and down linear waveform. I'm going to choose waveform 2, and I'm going to make this one an up and down sinusoidal waveform. So linear and sinusoidal. And we can see them here, waveform 1, waveform 2, and here is my output morph wave. This one looks like waveform B, or waveform 2, because this is set to 100% transition. Or in short, 100% means totally waveform 2, 0 means totally waveform 1, as we can see here. And so you can jump and change between each one, either slowly or quickly, and you can see the resulting waveform and how it changes. If I make this secondary waveform much more complex, in fact let's choose fractalize, because I like it. Back to morph. As I morph through, we can see how it is gradually turning into the second waveform. We also see how we have these bars here. Notice that it is kind of stretching between the second into the first, or vice versa. It's not simply doing this. Start to finish. It's not changing just by a simple crossfade. It is actually stretching between the two, as we can see. How is this mapping actually working, and how do these actually relate? Well, what it will do is it will move from this A as we transition into this A position here, and this B will gradually transition into this B position here. To be a bit more clear on this, if I put A and B to either end on both waveforms, we can see the crossfade. If I move A and B again to be pretty much in the same positions in terms of difference between 1 and 2, we can see once again pretty much a simple crossfade. If I now offset the positions of A and B and now transition, we can see how they're changing. A is stretching into A here, and B is stretching into B here. This is really good because this allows you to get good complex waveform shapes. Let's just fractalize this a couple of generations. The morphing between the two gets us good complex waveforms, which are great for a variety of sounds, especially when we start adding in shapes and NFOs. But it is also a very organic transition as you're going from one into the other. It's not just a simple crossfade, it's a good organic moving and changing sound between the two. And this is one of Absinth's actual strengths.